Welcome to everyone. We are going to start this first event of the series of bi-weekly updates, what's happening in Myanmar. I am Sciortino. I am the director and founder of Junction, and Junction is a public venue based in Bangkok that focuses on Southeast Asia. We have started this collaboration with the Irrawaddy, a leading media on Myanmar and beyond, also with a focus on Southeast Asia, out of concern for the terrible events that are happening in Myanmar right now after the 1st of February coup of the military. We have the honor to have here Aung, who is the founder and editor-in-chief of Irrawaddy. The idea is to give the word immediately to him for an update of what is happening in the last few weeks. And then after that, for about 20 minutes, and after that, we will have time for question and answers. You all will be muted until the question and answer, and later please use the symbol of hand to indicate that you want to ask some question. To gain time, I will immediately give the words to Aung. Please, Aung.
Thank you very much, Leah. Thank you for a kind invitation. I'm happy to be back to join the Junction. I hope everyone can hear well. I think my heart is racing a bit. Extremely busy times, and I also have to be careful a bit about my team working inside the country with the extreme difficulties. So far, we've been charged with the 505A, and the team is, most of the members stay hiding. But at the same time, you will see the reports of, if you look at in both English and Burmese languages, we have been reporting faithfully to our readers inside and outside the country. Under the extreme difficulties and circumstances we have faced, I can see that horrific, disturbing reports of the security forces, raider houses, clashing with the demonstrators and killing people. And also, you might have already seen the report of a 7-year-old girl was killed, 2 days ago in Mandalay during the protest. A lot of bystanders, a lot of people who had not participated in the protest, even were killed at the random in both in Yangon and Mandalay. And our reporters, our photographers, and as well as citizen journalists, they've been covering these events, and very unfortunate. And because if you follow Burma news last 10 years, there are a lot of good news as well as bad news. And country was moving forward, and now we are back to the old times. I'm afraid to say that it's going to be long. And with the martial law imposed in some areas in Yangon and in some parts in Mandalay, there will be much more brutal crackdown and arrest and detention of people. So far, we have reports of over 260 people killed. I think the number would be much, much higher than what we have estimated so far. I think because of, in some areas, we have little access to some areas. Even our reporters inside the country who were open to talk to different network, a lot of sources inside the country, now people are afraid to speak, afraid to collaborate because of afraid of repercussion and reprisal from the military forces and police. So I think that the window is somehow closing down a bit. It's very sad, But at the same time, not only our team, but also reporters remain inside the country. Whoever went underground, they still keep working daily news because they wanted us to know what is happening inside the country. I think the scale of brutalities, the scale of indiscriminate killings, the scale of torture, the scale of the inhuman treatment, those who are taken to the prisons or interrogation centers, I mean, beyond my word. And I think some of the opposition party or activists or even elected representatives who belong to the elected government who were taken to the custody, and next day their family members were told that you can come back to collect your loved ones' dead bodies. So these cases are happening not only in Yangon, but also in as well as in the countryside. Because in the countryside is much more also important, because we have seen a lot of images of protests in the early stage of very peaceful. It's such a peaceful protest, very creative, very innovative, and a civil disobedience movement. All that's going on and gaining a momentum. And lately, at the end of the late February, you started seeing the killings and very much to the brutal crackdown by the security forces. So you will see that how the things have changed dramatically from the peaceful protest to the clashes, and Rangoon has turned into like a war zones. Like people and demonstrators and security forces, having the clashes, and they being chased away by the security forces and they killed. So I think it has changed. I think we are getting very, very worried about the countries probably sliding into the civil war or a complete and failed state if we cannot control this situation, if we cannot go back to the I don't think we can how the country can go back to the normalcies. And also people are thinking about right to defend themselves because of after they've seen that the brutal killings, and they started to feel that it's time to defend. And this is, you can see that yesterday in the military junta was arresting and dozens of people, youth, who are believed to be coming to the eastern border with Thailand to take up the arms and get in the trainings. So I think you can see that the chaos, you can imagine that the chaos and instability descend into the country. That is very, very sad. And also we have a martial law. And I want to a little bit talk about the martial laws. In 1988, I've seen that a coup in 1988 because of the military coup. 3 days after, I fled to Thailand, and at the time it was very entirely different. It was a months-long demonstration and protest taking place in 1988, and finally, the military came down with a brute force to take the power again. But this time, the military illegally took the power from the elected government and put them in prison and put them under detention and unlawfully put them in a detention. And now they were saying that we're going to hold an election. We're going to bring the country back to the normal. We're going to introduce a democracy. I mean, this is ridiculous. You can start to see that 3 or 4 weeks ago, the junta started arresting reporters, journalists, scholars, intellectuals, civil servants, and almost everyone who do not agree with the military coup, who oppose the military coup. All the intellectuals, artists, reporters, they are all put in prison. If they want to build the country What are those intellectual and people, why they have to go out and arrest them and treat them inhumanly? This is, this is such a very sad time for us because of Burma is, before the military coup, I keep using calling Burma. I prefer to use Burma instead of Myanmar. Excuse me for that. Burma was heading to the, openness, even though we had a lot of problems during the, fragile transition. And the people inside the country who voted in the 2020 election in November, and they felt that even though there are a lot of difficulties, the transition is going to be difficult, but we're going to give a chance to the NLD again to try for the next term. And this is where the military disagree. And they came up with a very flimsy justification to stage a coup, accusing the NLD government of, voter fraud, that kind of allegation. But a few days later, there are a lot of bogus charges against the Aung San Suu Kyi and President Win Myint and other the elected members with the illegal walkie-talkie and corruption charges. And this is like an same old story that we have read or we have seen in Burma, like 30 years ago, 25 years ago, when we were covering the Burma from the exiles. So I think it's very sad and very unfortunate for all of us. And also, I want to share a little bit about my team. And today I was a bit distressed because I couldn't even concentrate because of some of our team members who are placed in a safe location. They have to move to another location. And I don't know how long they can be secure and safe inside the country because of there has been ongoing interrogation to our colleagues, other press members who told us that the military and the interrogators are quite unhappy and displeased with some of our reports, our work on a lot of issues, including the ongoing protests and peaceful protests. So they came out with the charges against the Irrawaddy, but also some of the more unfortunate media offices such as the Myanmar or DVB. The military forces entered the compound and offices and then raided and destroying, break into the offices and destroying the files. And so it's such a I think unbelievable things happen in our country. But at the same time, I think what the military was given this absolute power when they announced martial law. Martial law means in 1988, I still remember one of the top generals came out and said, martial law means no law at all. So I still remember it's ringing here that martial law means no law at all, which means they can do whatever they want. And martial law in Burma means no, like in Thailand or any other countries. It's they have a judicial power, they have administrative power, they have a military power. And they can charge you with the high treason. And then the military colonels who has control over each district, they have absolute control, absolute power. And they can try you with the military code martials, and they can put you in prison and they can even give you the death sentences. So this is something that I also want to explain about the meanings of the martial law in our country. But at the same time, as the demonstrators, if you see 2 days ago, there's a silent protest. Almost the whole country, when the people call for the silent protest, and then a lot of township, a lot of areas, and then they closed down and they express their strong opposition to the military junta, that they did not agree with the military coup. And when the people came out and in agreement came out to protest today again, like a dawn protest, and like a 5 a.m., 4 a.m., 6 a.m., a lot of youth, they came out to protest again, to show that they did not agree. They do oppose the military coup. And I'm afraid to say that military is also prepared to remain and stay in power, and they will do whatever they can, you know, to oppress and to suppress this opposition and this protest. This is what I'm really worried. And also at the same time, there are hundreds of, if not thousands, hundreds of people are fleeing to the Thai-Burma border. And I think there are 400 or 500 police officers who joined the CDM protest, as well as civilians and activists also fled to the India-Burma border. So a lot of them is coming to the ethnic regions, and probably they will be taking up the arms trainings or taking the refuge, or they may be coming across the border with Thailand to the Thai border areas. With the COVID situation, I don't know how they're going to handle this situation. And Thailand is also very much concerned with this influx of refugees, influx of political asylum seekers, and instability in the country. I think ASEAN as a whole, also, I think we've seen that they are concerned, and they have expressed their concern about what is happening. As Burma is a member of the ASEAN, I think ASEAN is important, as well as other member states and the international community. You can look at the U.S. has imposed a targeted sanction against the individual members of the military junta. I think, but inside the country, people are expecting some form of help, some form of intervention, some form of assistance, more powerful languages. I think more powerful, I think, sanctions. I know that will cut the lifeline of the military junta. This is something that we can discuss maybe in the Q&A session, I think. But we're talking about, I mean, international reaction. I think so far the UN, I think the US and EU and Japan, which is one of the most important countries because of the aid and the investment inside the country, they came out strongly. Even though ASEAN has no consensus, but I think Indonesia and Singapore individually, they came out to denounce the military coup, and they said that they don't recognize the military regime in Burma, which is quite interesting. At the same time, China, if you look at China initially said that the military coup as a major reshuffle, and then in the first week of February, week after the February and military coup, China came out and said, "Oh, this is the major reshuffle. This is not a military coup." But you can start to see that a lot of series of anti-China protests. I said anti-China, not anti-Chinese, and because of, I mean, we don't against Chinese, but it's anti-China protests taking place in front of the Chinese embassies in Yangon, and this is quite amazing. Then later, and it turns into a bit more violence, but which is also very difficult to know who was behind, because of some of the Chinese factories are being targeted in outskirts of Yangon, I think, in the underground, and they set fire. And I don't know who are the arsonists and who are the people behind to create this kind of disturbances, this kind of destruction against the Chinese factory and other factories owned by the Chinese, the Japanese, even the Taiwanese, I think. So that is also interesting to see. I think China is also put in a very awkward position. I believe that China also wants to see the stability in the country, but what is happening in Burma is not what we want to see. Definitely not what we want to see inside the country. So I think with that, I think I will open to the floor. If you have any question, I'll be happy to answer, or if you want to discuss, I'll be happy to come into the discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ansao. And we are going to open the floor for a question or comments or other reflection. If you are interested in asking a question, please do raise your hand with the reaction on the corner on the bottom of your screen, or give a sign that you are interested. Seems no
Because
one.
I had to be a little bit careful, you know, because of whatever I said, my words, it's not a statement. I'm a media profession, but also I'm a human being. I have my own emotions, and I'm not a foreign reporter working on Burma. I'm not parachute foreign journalist working on Burma. I myself is a Burmese journalist, and wanted to see change in the country and
Yes.
press freedom and democracy. That's very hard. But also, I cannot put because of what I said, I cannot put my team in danger. I cannot jeopardize, you know, very precarious, difficult conditions that they've been working now. And even before I engaged with you now, I had a lot of emails and a lot of contact with them. Not email exactly. These days we talk, you know, through signals, and then what's most popular platform that we use to chat and talk, explain, and talking to, because it's a rapidly changing situation and it remain very fluid. I mean, to some extent, some of the members, they don't even dare to say where they hide. I don't ask where they're being located or where, but we are trying to support as much as we could to help them out, you know. And I'm not a head of the UNHCR or I could do a lot to them, but I think a lot of people out there, that's
We understand the constraints, and we are very grateful that you are willing to talk publicly. Actually, we have 3 questions now, so I will give you these 3 questions. One is about what you think of Dr. Sasa and how effective at this moment the provisory government is. Then, what is the interaction between your generation and the generation of refugees who ran away of Myanmar at the time, and the new Generation Z, and whether there is any discussion about experience about going abroad? I think these 2 for now.
I think they are great questions.
There is one more about, also very important, about the banks. How much longer can people hold out without cash if they are not able to withdraw money from the bank? So please, these 3 questions.
Yeah, I think they're great question. Thank you very much for your questions. I think you're talking about, I believe you're talking about Dr. Sasa and the CRPH, the committee representing Pitu, I think, CRPH, the parallel. One thing I want to say that the elected government, the NLD, is going to be the life of the government, according to the constitutions, is going to be ended by the end of March. Which means in a normal period of time, if things going smoothly, if there was no coup, and there will be a new formation of government, handing over of power to the new government. But now this the period of the government, the ousted government, I mean, is the lifespan is going to be ended by the end of March. So it means that there's a lot of implication. I don't want to elaborate because I don't know. I don't want to pretend to know. But this is how the military is going to manipulate the existing laws and legislations And that is also something sounds very fishy, that they keep postponing the trial period for the Aung San Suu Kyi. Now I believe that her trial period is moved to 1st of April, which is very interesting, because of they have an excuse justifying to say that because of internet connection, because of there's no Wi-Fi, there's no Wi-Fi, and that's why they couldn't hold the trial process for Aung San Suu Kyi. So I think they have done it before, and these kind of things. So that, and the CRPH is interesting. I think they are also on the run, but some of them, I believe, they're now in the Thai-Burma border areas and still operating. I think militaries handing down and going after members of the CRPH, as well as those who are associated with the CRPH. Even the reporters who make contacts with the CRPH are arrested and put in prison now. So you can see that how the military is reacting very sensitively on the CRPH. And Dr. Sasai, I think he was very much involved with the. I don't know him personally. I think he was very much involved with the humanitarian work. He's from Chin State, lived abroad, and recently his name is become a household name in Myanmar because of his involvement and his escape to the border areas after the military coup, and his engagement with the international actors, as well as the Uchom Newton, who is a Burmese diplomat who famously, showed the three-finger salute at the UN informal discussion on Burma, and joining the CDM movement. So I think there are. I believe there are some kind of coordination among them to try to work out how to remove the military junta, or how not to give the much needed legitimacy that the military regime wanted. This is something I want to talk about it, the legitimacy. So far, I think the generals get it wrong, because of whenever they look at Thailand, and they got a wrong impression. I always keep telling to my Thai friends that, the May Aung, the coup maker, whenever he came to Thailand, he looked at Thailand, and each time his plane flew back to Burma, he got some wrong idea, I think, wrong impression that I could do it. But this is completely different political landscape in Thailand and in Burma. And I think the military miscalculated the youth, which I'm going to talk about later. I completely miscalculated the Generation Z, which completely, we even, I think, underestimated the Generation Z. That the military thought if they detain Aung San Suu Kyi, if they detain some of the politicians, if they detain some people, and some people may come out of the street, they can randomly shoot and they can quell the protest, they can suppress the protest. This is what they were initially thought, I think. But now, what they did not anticipate, what they did not expect is a widespread campaign. It's a widespread, coherent, coordinated, very much a unified resistance, which the attempted coup, I still call it attempted coup. The coup may succeed, but still, I still keep telling people that the coup is not succeeding, not yet, because of the strong resistance that is still facing from all over the country. So I think this is something that they completely miscalculated. And if you look at the May Aung speech in the first day after the military coup, he was saying, okay, everything will be fine. We will follow the military government guideline. We won't change the policy. And he thinks this is something sounded like a Thai style military coup. Here is different, Thailand, but in Burma, no. People in Myanmar are the message is very loud and clear. We don't want to go back to the old age. We don't want to be slave of the military again. That is the reason that they came out of the streets and they make a protest. Where I'm going to talk about, like Generation Z, right? And I don't know about Dr. Sasa again, and the calling for the R2P, which I also think, as a journalist, I think completely unrealistic. But and also sadly give a lot of false hope inside the country. But still, if you look at the placards, if you look at the protest letters and people holding and the UN, and they want intervention, they want R2P to come. But I still think that this kind of demand or this kind of, I think, hope is still, I think, kind of, it's not realistic. And I think this is something I think we media also trying to inform inside the country, the people inside the country, that what is a realistic, what is happening on the ground, what can you expect from the international community, what are the limitations that UN and US and the neighboring countries, including China and Japan and ASEAN has. This is something that our job to tell people that, not to misrepresent, but to tell the facts that what is happening inside the country, how to relate to the international landscape and what the international community can do, right? The second question is about Generation Z. I think my generation, we had a, we work with papers and pens to, go against the socialist regime in 1987 and 1988. And we had an underground movement, but we have no cell phones. We have nothing. We have no social media. We have nothing at all. We have nothing in our hands when we were on the streets or when we are forming some kind of underground movement in 1987, long time ago. But even to get to the stage of where we can gather and then took to the streets, it took months. It took a huge risk for us. But this time is very different. It was so inspiring. I think it was very inspiring to see the youth who are in 20s, who are less than 20s, Generation Z came out of the streets and much more creative. And not like us, they don't need to raise a fist. And they have different kinds of arts and different kind of form, they can exhibit their opposition to the military coup in different kinds of ways. I mean, if you look back, I'm even thinking to publish a book, like in a collection of the memories of the February. If you look at from first week of February to until before the killings took place, there are so many, memorables, very interesting, inspiring form of, protests taking place throughout the country. I mean, you might have seen some of the pictures and photos, and it's very interesting. So I really admire. I really admire those kids. I stopped even in my office. I stopped talking, giving what should be doing. I think I listen more to my team who are in 20s because I think it's time to listen to them. They will lead, and it gives you a hope. And there's a hope instead of whenever you wake up every day, you feel like you are robbed. I always describe to my former colleague like Therese and people that like in a poor family who have no jobs, who have no saving in the past, but 6 months ago they started having a kind of a low-paid job, and then they can start having saving, and they start to have a tiny piece of dream and a hope, and suddenly the robbers came at night and rob them away, take them away, everything. This is how the people in Burma feel it, I think. And this is how people in Myanmar.
Now we have a lot of questions, sorry to. So can you tell about the banks? And
banks, yeah. I think I drag on, sorry, I carry over. I think I should stop. I think the banks are still resisting. There are a lot of staff who joined the CDM movement are now questioned and being interrogated. Even today, we received a message that their convenience stores And the banks, private banks, a lot of banks in Burma, the youth, they are who are 20s, so they are not listening to the boss who told them to go back to work. So now the banks are now functioning. I mean, it's like everything is going to collapse because of this is a success of the Syrian movement. I think I would say at least that because of the government, not only the hunter also having a lot of financial pressure and the Syrian impact, and this is creating a major headache for them. And the banks, to reopen the bank, it would take months, I think. And also the military sources, I gather, not directly, I heard that they are preparing they're weathering this resistance will take at least a year. When the British came to invade our country in 1885, it took 10 years to suppress the whole rebellions. The British also underestimated. But nowadays, we have our own, military, which is now acting like a foreign troops invading the country. But something similar to British, what they have done to our country. And I think they also now completely, they were now looking at what is going on. We thought that we will be able to control the population. Now they've lost control, I think.
Okay, let me give you some more. We have too many questions, so I just will select three of them. And one is about, I think you talk about the CDM movement, so I will not repeat. One interesting question is about whether you see any division in the military. I think this is related to a pattern in Southeast Asia where often the solution is from inside the military. The second is about the two Australians that have been arrested on the airport, whether you know anything about that or you have heard about their condition. The third one, and again, there are many more, but I will not be able to go through, is about what you expect for Armed Force Day that is coming up. And maybe a last one about the cyber security bill. I think this you have plenty. Try to answer as shortly as possible.
Okay, that's good. And all questions are good. Very, very good question. I think whoever asked these questions, I want to say thank you. You guys ask a fantastic question, and I'd like to answer as much as I can. First of all, that there's no tradition of breaking up in the military. Because of the democracy movement. And if they hear the word Aung San Suu Kyi, if they hear the word federal democracy, if they hear the words human rights, and then no matter how many they are, how much of they are disunited or how many different opinions they have among themselves, they got united again. So this is very sad thing. So, but there's a glimmer of hope that this time there are a lot of news coming out. We still are trying to confirm that the police forces who are helping demonstrators to flee, and some areas, some police refuse to shoot. Some police officer joined the Syrian movement and who now fled to the India border or Thai border. And then there are also a lot of argument, a bitter argument among the police forces and the military forces. So this is good thing that this is happening, I think. But at the same time, I think the military is sadly, you may be very disappointed to hear that they are very much united. They stay very much united. I don't have any wishful thought and thinking that there will be a split, there will be a crack because of this protest and this demonstration taking place. And I think the only hope is that one of them or a few of them started to realize that this is a time to save their face. What we have done is so brutal, and we have no legitimacy, and then they started to think of we have to change the course. Then we may start to see some changes in Burma. I think I don't see the division, major division in the army, and because of that, you can see even today that they are preparing for the armed forces state. This question about armed forces, they are going to demonstrate. They're going to show that they are unified, they are united. They're going to make you sad. They're going to make you feel unhappy. They want to make you feel that disappointed. That they want to show that they are united. And this is something that also the military is not only enjoying the political power. You have to keep in mind that the military also enormously enjoying economic power. They have committed so much of economic crimes in the country. And if you look at the military-owned companies, the resources that they have enriched themselves, millionaires or billionaires that they have, whatever ridiculous charges they have against Aung San Suu Kyi and other parties, what they have eaten from the country that has a so promising potential and resources in Southeast Asia, they run the country to ground. So if you look at that, this military, why they stage a coup again? Why they want to give you only disciplined democracy? Why they cannot share their cake? It's very obvious. So I think that's why they are so united in this. And then that's why they are faced before the isolation, the sanctions, they have lived through it, they have gone through it, they survived it. That's why they are so arrogant to came out and said that we can live again. But no Burmese people cannot live. But no Burmese people can live. But they said we can live. We used to this sanction. We used to this pressure. We used to this isolation. We will go out and live like this again. So this is their message. It's very sad, huh? That this Army Day is what they are expecting is some kind of domestic legitimacy. I think the question on Army Day is they invited several ethnic organizations, call it EAO. Most of them initially thought they would go to attend the Army Day, which will lend them the military junta the legitimacy. Now it seems to me, according to our reports, most of the EAO were not good to attend the Army Days. So Army Days will be quite lonely. I think there are two more questions, two Australian. I don't know. I think I only know Sciortino, who is my friend, is my colleague. I had met him last time before the COVID, before the country locked down. I had a long conversation with him. He was very staunch, strong-willed, and very much working close to Aung San Suu Kyi. Talking about not only about Sciortino, but other foreigners, I think, who used to work with Aung San Suu Kyi, the Aung San Suu Kyi government. I think I've been aware that last 2 or 3 years, the military intelligence and the military have keep watching them for long. And then they're very suspicious of those foreigners working around the government and helping the government and helping Aung San Suu Kyi. I wasn't very surprised to see that Sciortino was locked up, and we don't know whereabouts him. And I heard that he was allowed to talk to his family members back in Australia 2 times, and that's all I know. And I'm not very surprised that they have targeted these foreigners who been helping, working Aung San Suu Kyi and the Her Mother's Foundation, call it Dokinchi Foundations. And so I think now it's going to be very difficult even to leave even though we have relief flights, and the military being watching and monitoring who is leaving and who is coming inside and outside the country. I'm not talking about the border areas, I mean the airports. So I even heard that some of my colleagues who are trying to leave through the official channel, they're being prevented to leave the country. because of maybe they are on the blacklist or they are become military is very suspicious of them. So I don't know about the two Australians. I'm sorry. But this time is unusual. I think military is going after the foreigners because of they're very suspicious that those are helping the Dr. G Foundation and this government. Cybersecurity. It's a big issue. I mean, people talk a lot about the cybersecurity for long, and not only cybersecurity, but also I think cyber intelligence. If you look at last month, if the internet was shut down, when the internet was shut down, I was trying to call Yangon, and it was I got a very funny reception from other side. Even though I was calling my friend, I keep hearing the woman voices and both speaking in Chinese or speaking in Indian. It doesn't mean that, sorry, that as reported in the news that the Chinese are helping the cyber intelligence. I think a lot of systems in Myanmar are, I think, helped and engineered by Russians. If you not just Chinese alone, I think Burmese military rely heavily on Russian cyber security and cyber intelligence, and they have monitored a lot our conversation, our work, and creating a lot of false information and fake information, fake news in the social media. They also make a lot of advanced control over the social media to create a lot of false news and false information. So now we have to be very, very careful. Even before the coup, we were very careful not to share the sensitive information, a lot of confidential information through the messenger. We use other different kinds of platform to share the information. Maybe we have to go back to the old style, like using the pen and paper to share the information and share the info with the people. I don't know what to trust sometimes. Even the Signal, I got sometimes nervous, but Signal is the most common, I think. Unfortunately, even only last month, I've been warning this to 2 years ago. I've been warning even to my staff, do not rely on a messenger, because messenger is one of the most untrusted, and you cannot rely on them. And because of also Facebook, they doesn't take any accountability on this, and even the WhatsApp, I think. So I don't, even the WhatsApp, I wouldn't use it for any kind of confidential. Even for normal conversation inside and outside, I will be very, very careful. I think digital surveillance, digital cybersecurity is one of the problems we face, and especially journalists and the reporters we have.
There was
I don't hear you.
You're muted at the moment, Leah.
Whether there was the last question among the selected question was about Armed Force Day, whether you expect anything to happen on that day.
No, I think I already answered about Armed Forces Day. About Armed Forces Day on the 27th of March, they are inviting ethnic groups to come, but most of them decline. What we have to expect is, sorry, that's why they don't get even the domestic legitimacy. They were hoping that they means the military junta was hoping that a lot of ethnic groups will come and they will shake hands and they will put them in the front page of the newspaper and trying to tell the country, the people that, okay, we have a friends coming to join the army day. But now is after seeing the shocking pictures and shocking images of the killings and arrest and detention, even also, I think we shouldn't forget that these ethnic forces also face a lot of pressure from their own people, because protests not only take place in Yangon and Mandalay or Burma control area, but also in the Myitkyina and Shan states. Even in Taungji today, there's a protest taking place. In the Karen state, you can see that Karen DKB, AA, and KNU forces are escorting the demonstrators. So I think there are a lot of pressure from their own people. So ethnic armies who may be thinking of even attending the army day, they don't go. So what we have to expect, or we have to see what sort of message they will deliver the top military leaders who usually will go up and talk about, unifying the country. Now, what sort of political message they have in their mind, and talking about roadmap, talking about upcoming election, and this kind of message we have to expect from the army there, I think.
So thank you very much. There were many other questions, including about COVID situation, the vaccination. There was about what can be done again with the international community, and whether there is a light at the end of this tunnel, whether you have some positive news, and of course also about the Milk Tea Alliance, what is the collaboration about Generation Z. But unfortunately, we will not be able to discuss this issue this time, but I am sure that they will come up again in the next bi-weekly event with more. So this is supposed to be a bi-weekly event, and we may make adjustments if we need more time, as it seems that it is, because there is quite a lot of enthusiasm about asking and interacting on this issue. I like to thank Aung for his time in the midst of all these stressful events that are happening, especially the protection of his staff, which is mostly so. Aung San, as you know, is based in Chiang Mai, but the staff are all in Myanmar, inside Myanmar. So the editor and the staff, they are there. They are just now considering coming back to Chiang Mai for some editorial support, no? Oh no, we cannot say it, sorry, cancel it, delete it. But they are all in Myanmar, and they will remain there in spite of everything. But please do support, the Irrawaddy is making a call to support independent journalists. This series also meant not only to share information, but also to provide support to the Irrawaddy and other media in Myanmar. So please take a look at the website of the Irrawaddy, and you can see here also the link to contribute to them so they can continue to do their work safely. So thank you again to all those that have joined this link, and I hope to see you again in 2 weeks' time.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I leave now?